Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Our Scientology Stories, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm here live right now. And I wanted to talk to you all, let you all get in the chat, and you can make any comments in there, etc. But what I wanted to tell you is that, there was a new development just actually yesterday in the Leah Remini lawsuit against Scientology, Religious Technology Center, and David Miscavige. About a week ago, uh, they were arguing some motions, and the lawyer for Scientology, for RTC, for the Religious Technology Center, he spoke up to the judge and said, "Hey, well, we don't think we're involved in the suit because there's no evidence in here or anything from anybody, regarding Religious Technology Center or David Miscavige." And so the judge looked it over and said, "Well, counselor for Leah Remini, do you have any affidavits or anything that declarations in here that specifically talk about that?" And she couldn't remember if she did or not. So anyway, so he basically postponed a decision on that in order to allow Leah's lawyers to get declarations from people to assert or to mention the fact that Religious Technology Center and David Miscavige are intimately involved in the harassment and the Fairt Game of ex-Scientologists and Leah Remini. And so that's what happened. And so just yesterday, new declarations were filed by Mike Rinder and by Claire Headley. All right, Mike Rinder, who was the commanding officer of the Office of Special Affairs. He was the Watchdog Committee chairman, the Watchdog Committee member for the Office of Special Affairs, which handles all the legal and PR and public activities for Scientology, any attacks. And he also, worked directly with Miscavige for years, taking care of all the lawsuits and all the different things that were going on. And then, of course, he would have an intimate knowledge of Miscavige and RTC's relationship to the Fairt Game and the attacks and that type of thing. And then, of course, Claire Headley, who worked in Religious Technology Center for many years. She worked for David Miscavige, and she was recently testified in the Danny Masterson trial as an expert witness regarding Scientology. And so she also issued a declaration regarding that. Okay, so I'm just going to read through. I read over the declarations this morning, and I thought there's some interesting things that were pointed out in here. And some of the stuff you guys already know. I mean, Miscavige, us that work for him, I work for David Miscavige. I ran his office for 6.5 years until I started seeing the abuse happening in 1990. I left in September 1990, but I worked for him for 6.5 years when he first became the chairman of the board of Religious Technology Center. And I know exactly how he worked during that time period. And basically, things have not changed. He always has been the person in charge of Scientology. He controls everything, anything and everything that needs to be done or somebody wants to get done in Scientology has to be approved by him personally. I mean, to the finest detail. He doesn't let anybody make decisions on their own, including regarding any legal affairs or anything like that. When I worked in his office, I was not involved with the legal stuff. That was handled by Marty Rathbun, who was in charge of that. And whenever Marty came in to talk to David Miscavige, the sliding door between my office and Miscavige's would be slid closed, and he would basically brief him on whatever was going on. And it was all kept hush hush. It was on a need to know basis in terms of what people knew and what they were doing. At any rate, what I want to do now is I'm going to read you portions of Mike Rinder's declaration, and just bear with me 1 second because I'm going to share the screen here, and I'm going to read. I highlighted, and I'm going to read some of these portions here. Okay, and this, I hope you can see it. And this is a declaration from Mike Rinder, hereby attests as follows. I'm going to skip down here. This is all just sort of introductory things and, going over his history. But I highlighted some portions here, and I'm going to read them to you. In my personal experience, Fairt Game campaigns against suppressive persons, surveillance, harassing articles and posts, websites, efforts to deprive the subject of employment, and similar tactics ordered by RTC were closely supervised by Miscavige. Scientology devotes its virtually unlimited tax-exempt resources into campaigns designed to destroy anyone it perceives as an enemy. And then it goes down here further. He highlights a quote by L. Ron Hubbard. It says, L. Ron Hubbard dictates, emphasis added, we must ourselves fight on the basis of total attrition of the enemy. So never get reasonable about him. Just go all the way in and obliterate him. So Scientology, they take on their enemies, and their plan is to wipe you out and obliterate you. And I can personally attest to that, because since I left in 1990, I've had numerous Fairt Game campaigns run against me, including trying to get me fired from jobs, get me reported to the Internal Revenue Service for violations that never occurred, and for other things as well. And it was all based on private investigators and people they sent in to be friends of mine to report up to Miscavige for over 30 years. I've been out now for 34 years, and they basically have just been harassing me nonstop. And so I can definitely attest to that they just don't let up on this sort of thing. I'm going to go down and read further. I have more than this is Mike Rinder talking. I have more than 2 decades of personal experience working for David Miscavige and under his direction as COB of RTC, dealing with the most pressing external affairs matters. Miscavige has always maintained personal and direct control over situations he felt threatened his position of authority and power within the organization, or anything that would harm his image. The highest priorities for me, as directed by David Miscavige, were A, matters relating to litigation where he was named as a defendant or could possibly become a defendant. B, matters concerning Scientology celebrities. C, matters pertaining to anyone who escaped the organization who had personal dealings with Miscavige. And D, anything he felt threatened the well-being of Scientology. So he basically was, those were the priorities that Miscavige laid out, and you could tell that that's what he's interested in. Not only is he interested in celebrities and what happens with them in the lawsuits, but also the people who speak out, particularly the people who work directly for him or had a personal connection with him. People like myself, people like Mike Rinder, people like Marty Rathbun when they left, people like Mark and Claire Headley, people like Mitch Brisker. Okay, I just finished reading his book, and the things that were done to him, and what he reported on in terms of his close relationship with David Miscavige are detailed in his book, Scientology: The Big Lie. I'll go down further. Miscavige receives a daily report concerning every legal case, every media interaction, every investigation ongoing in the world. There was a separate investigations report that I compiled with very limited distribution, including David Miscavige and Marty Rathbun. The Invest report contains specifics of all ongoing activities of private investigators and intelligence operations against attackers. On hundreds of occasions, David Miscavige specifically commented upon and issued orders to me based on information contained in the OSA daily report. So he was getting briefed on everything, and that's just the way he is. That's how he was when I worked for him, not even regarding the litigation, but regarding anything having to do with Golden Era Productions, Scientology, CMO International, management. I used to have to send him a daily report of everything that was going on at the international base that I dealt with in regards to gold. He wants to know everything about everything. So any denial by him saying, oh, I didn't know or anything like that, that's a bunch of BS. Okay, he knows about everything. Each and every OSA daily report and Invest daily report that was produced daily from 1981 to present is filed both in electronic and hard copy form at OSA. This is an important point that Mike makes here. Scientology keeps files of everything. Okay, they keep track of this LRH policy. They keep all of your auditing folders. They keep all your ethics folders, your personnel folders, right? Well, guess what? For the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they keep files of everything. And I wished in 2009, 2010, they would have actually raided and gotten the people out of the hole. And it wouldn't have been so much as, oh, well, these people are going to say, well, no, I'm here of my own free will. What would have produced a lot of ammunition for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate Scientology would have been all the files, because Scientology keeps files on everything. That's what happened in 1977 when they raided the Guardian's office in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. They got all these files and they had all this information, and Scientologists can't help themselves. They have it all there laid out for them. And that's what led to the arrests of the people in regards to the Snow White campaign, all the information they got from that and the crimes that they found in there. And that would happen again, obviously, if they keep, if somebody was to actually go in and get these files, they would see all of this information. I also can attest to this too personally, because when I just recently, Mark Headley sent me last June a bunch of OSA files that he got from Mike Rinder on a floppy disk. He got 40,000 documents regarding different things that he took with him when he left Scientology. Mike Rinder finally left in, I guess, 2007, 2008, in that time period. But he took all these files with him. And, there's so many of them, Mark Headley didn't have time to do it. So he did a search on my name, and he sent me a bunch of files. I've got about 10, 15 files regarding, and there are communications between Office of Special Affairs staff members and the Watchdog Committee chairman, or the Watchdog Committee member over OSA, which was Mike Rinder at the time. And it was regarding programs to handle and obliterate me in 2006, when I started speaking out in a private internet chat group on Yahoo called XSO members. Okay. And so that they literally they also had a spy, somebody who had been my friend since 1999, who was on their payroll reporting everything I did. As a matter of fact, I spoke to him on a daily basis. And all the information, when I read the program, it all came from him. I know exactly. And they also had it inaccurate too. But the goal was to get me to shut up and stop speaking out on the internet. And they contacted my employer. They contacted some of my business contacts. They were planning on reporting me to, get investigated for mortgage fraud. And basically, I had an attorney contact the private investigator they had doing this, and had them tell them that I was not going to be speaking out on the internet. And if they continued to harass me regarding my employment or my life, that I'd be taking action. And they stopped. They stopped doing it. But I read the rest of the program, and their intention was to eventually turn me into the IRS for bogus claims, for mortgage fraud, for all sorts of things, right? And that also included the different trips and stuff that they use on their hate websites. They have hate websites up on me and anybody who's spoken out against Scientology. And I've been gone for 34 years, okay? And I've done nothing wrong. They don't even need to know or say that you actually did something wrong. They just intimate it, or they take a photograph and they claim, oh, here, look at this photograph. This is proof of something, when they don't actually know that that's the case regarding the photograph. I could be standing next to the President of the United States and they could say, oh, look at him. He's in collusion with the President of the United States, when all it would be a photo opportunity at a dinner. Right. So, they just basically take anything they get and they twist it, and they use it to try to obliterate their attackers, as they mentioned. Right. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is Miscavige is in control of everything. All right. He always has been. He always will be. Right. And what's upsetting to me is, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we've just done, some interviews with former Sea Org members who were actually abused, actually locked up, beaten, drugged, and abused. Okay. And this happened not just, recently. This happened like back in the day on this flagship Apollo, and Hubbard was involved in some of this. And then it was on the Free Winds, the actual Free Wind ship. Okay, I'm going to show you this. This is a video that we did, an interview, and we put it out this week in 2 parts with Scott and Carrie Campbell. All right, and they were held prisoner. He was held prisoner on the Free Winds for months. The reason being, he wanted to leave because his grandmother was dying, and his family wanted him to come to the funeral, and his CSW got denied. All right, so he left anyway, and they went and they gang tackled him in town in Mexico, and threw him into a car, and then locked him up in a cabin for weeks. And he fought back. He's a big guy. He did not want to be held captive. Right. And then they figured that, oh, he's having a psychotic break. So they started drugging his drink and his food. He lost weight. Okay. His security guards, when he tried to leave or escape, would hit him and physically handle him. Right. And this went on for months. Okay. And this is only part two of the story. Part two, two of the story. Sorry, that was only part one. Part two of the story. They finally routed them out of the Sea Organization in Los Angeles, and he still was so messed up that her family, who were Scientologists, said, "Hey, what's going on? This guy's messed up. You guys need to fix it, Church of Scientology." So they said, "Okay, well, we'll do that." They abducted him and his wife when they came back to the PAC base to get cleaned up. Abducted him with two martial arts security guards into a van, and they drove them to a small town in New Mexico called Reserve, New Mexico. And they again locked him up, all right, to try and get him to calm down. They thought he was having some kind of psychotic break or mental illness, right? And they locked him up. He tried to escape. They tied him up with clothesline and duct taped his mouth, and he thought he was going to die. They had a piece of plywood nailed over the door so he could not get out. His wife, who thought something was wrong with her husband and they were trying to help him, she was actually providing food for the security guards and for her husband. And when she saw the board over the door, she said, "What is going on?" And she got inside to see him and talk to Scott, and basically reported up what was going on by these people, as these Sea Org members, to other people in Scientology in the Sea Organization, and these people were replaced. And eventually Scott was able to calm down, and he was able to leave along with his wife. And this went on for over a year that he was locked up and drugged, okay, because they thought they knew best as far as his mental health, right? Okay, now the reason I bring this up in regards to David Miscavige is because he knows everything about everything. He knew about these things being locked up. Why? Because it would have been included in those daily reports that were sent up by Mike Rinder, okay, and OSA. They would have wanted to know. I know that David Miscavige wanted to know of anyone, any public Scientologist or whatever, who was having some kind of mental illness or psychotic problem, and what the handling was, because they wanted to protect themselves from being sued, okay? So he knew about this. Scott eventually escaped with his wife, like I said, in 1994. This happened in 1993 and 94, right? So this is before, what really made me angry, because I didn't know anything about this, this is before Lisa McPherson. This is Lisa McPherson, who in the late 1990s in Clearwater was a public Scientologist, and she had a mental breakdown, took all of her clothes off in the street in Clearwater. The police and the paramedics were going to take her to the hospital. Scientology got her out of the hospital by saying, "Oh, they're going to take you to a psychiatric hospital." They then locked her up in one of the cabanas at the Fort Harrison Hotel. And I think 2 to 3 weeks later, she was dead from neglect. She died dehydration. She'd gone crazy. They were drugging her. They weren't feeding. She wasn't eating. They were trying to force feed her, and she died. She died. Okay. And the reason this was a big flap at the time, and this is a famous case, is that Clearwater and Florida Pinellas County decided to investigate to say what happened. Well, Marty Rathbun got involved with it because he was David Miscavige's handler, and they were investigating that he needed to get rid of the evidence, right? So this is a protest that were done. This went on for a long time about Lisa McPherson, Scientology kills, right? Well, they were actually investigating David Miscavige and Search Scientology for criminal behavior in regards to this, right? And this is a photograph of David Miscavige in the courtroom during the Lisa McPherson investigation. And he was freaked out that he was going to be indicted and go to jail. And you know the reason why, which wasn't found out until years later, because he was one of the people that were handling Lisa McPherson in terms of her auditing and processing in order to try and get her handled, right? And when she died, everybody freaked out. And of course, Scientology, like I said, they keep records on everything. They keep records on the auditing sessions, the whole bit. And there were auditing sessions and notes from Miscavige in her folder, apparently, that had Miscavige's handwriting on them and his fingerprints. So how did this all go away? Eventually it went away and they were able to get rid of the criminal charges because Marty Rathbun, who was David Miscavige's handler, he admitted this, you know, in the press as well as in his book, his memoir. He made the evidence disappear. Basically, it was gone, and it was nowhere to be found. In other words, he committed a crime in order to protect David Miscavige, right? So this is how freaked out Miscavige is when it comes to this kind of thing, and it pisses me off because the thing is that this has been going on for years. This didn't just the treatment of Scott and Kerry Campbell, the treatment of Lisa McPherson. This also happened on the flagship Apollo. We did another interview, okay, with Sandy Holman, and also Janice remembers these things happening too on the Apollo, where people who had quote unquote psychotic breaks were locked up in their cabins with security guards and given a pail to go to the bathroom and fed food, and then basically they were then processed, and Hubbard tried to, you know, develop handlings for this type of psychosis. Eventually, these people were offloaded off the ship. So these stories have gone on for years and years and years, right? And this is real abuse. So I thank Mike Rinder and Claire for stepping up here and doing these declarations, okay? Basically, this is needed. You know, Miscavige is under a lot of pressure, okay, and rightfully so, all right? They just lost the Danny Masterson case, meaning Masterson is found guilty and he's in jail, okay? And he's trying to appeal his conviction, but it more than likely is going to be denied. And then Miscavige has to worry about Danny Masterson possibly going to the prosecutors and say, hey, I want to reduce sentence, and I'll tell you everything that Scientology did regarding my report, the reports of the rapes and the assaults that would happen to those Scientologists, to the victims, the Jane Does, right? Because Scientology knew everything that happened on that because they keep files on everything. And there's evidence of letters written by some of the victims' families writing to David Miscavige and him writing back, right? So, you know, what's to stop Masterson from trying to cut a deal to go after David Miscavige? I'd be very worried if I was David Miscavige, okay? The other thing he has to worry about is Leah's lawsuit. I mean, this is going to help, you know, keep RTC and David Miscavige in the picture regarding this lawsuit. And the last thing that David Miscavige wants is to be put on the stand in order to be deposed, or not even on the stand, just to have a deposition with attorneys there, because he knows he's going to lie, and then he's going to be, you know, found guilty of perjury, right? Because there's too many things that they can confront him with that he's going to have to deny, and it's going to be proven that he's lying about that. So he never, ever wants to sit in a chair for a deposition, and that's his biggest fear, in my opinion. He does not want to go to jail, so he will fight tooth and nail. He will use his billions of dollars in order to do that, and you know, that's just the way it is. But I wanted to say something on a positive note, and then I'll go to your comments and questions. So if you've got questions in there, please go ahead into the section and write the word question. If you want a super chat or super sticker, that's fine too. And give me your opinion, give me your comments in there, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I wanted to say that we are making a change, okay? All the auditing that is going on in front of the Scientology organizations on the Hollywood Test Center and in Clearwater, Florida, and all that stuff, that is placing the attention on Scientology, okay, and also on people and trying to keep them out. And that's putting pressure on them. It happened before with the anonymous protests years ago, and it's happening now. So that's all a positive thing. As a matter of fact, Janice is down in Florida right now, and she's going to be in Clearwater on Saturday, downtown Clearwater. And as soon as I get, you know, what restaurant and where she's going to be down there as well, hopefully with AA Ron. and they'll be walking around as well in downtown Clearwater to bring attention to that, right? But there's other things going on. We're trying on our channel to bring forward these stories of abuse, okay, because they're important. Whether or not anything ever happens, right? The problem with Scott and Carrie's situation is by the time they went to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 2009, they said the statute of limitations was already gone, you know, and that's part of the problem. When you're under abuse, it takes a long time in order to peel the onion and to, you know, to get well enough to the where you go like, I want to report this, right? And it happened also in the Danny Masterson case. You know, they didn't go to the police for years, but luckily the laws in California allowed them to bring the cases and the charges against Danny Masterson because of the type of crime that was committed. So anyway, so this is putting a lot of pressure on Miscavige, right? We're telling our stories because it's making a historical record of what's going on in Scientology, and it's going to be around forever. I don't care, you know, Miscavige can put Hubbard's writings on titanium plates in an underground bunker for as long as he wants, but all of these stories on YouTube and on the internet, they're going to be around forever. They're in cyberspace. They've been copied forever. So this is really, really putting a lot of pressure on them, right? And then you have things that are being done that are actually helping to get, you know, we're making progress, right? For example, where's Shelley, right? We've been wondering for years. We all thought she was up at Twin Peaks at last time she was seen in probably 2007, 2008. Turns out somebody found out that Shelley is up at Petrolia, California, at another Church of Spiritual Technology base, which is even remoter than the Twin Peaks place, right? They found the record was found, and then you've seen videos of the place and all that. So now we have a better idea of where he has her hidden away, right? So, you know, putting pressure, and this all came about because of the Where's Shelley situation, right? Because when Leah Remini went and was filing a missing persons report, oh, that's right around the time that she was moved up to this place up in Northern California, based on the records that were found as to why she was there. Why? To get her away from all of this stuff. You know, the revelation of the hole and all the people locked up in the hole, that's resulted in the Rehabilitation Project Force being disbanded. So these things create pressure on them, and there are changes that are being made, hopefully to help the people that are inside, right? And also, if they decide to leave, there's places they can go, like the Aftermath Foundation and other just private Scientologists, former Scientologists, who will help these people to leave, right? And so there's pressure building, and the work that we're doing, the work that everybody's doing down at the test center, down, you know, creating, you know, public image out front of the test center and all these things, it all is helping. All of it is helping. We're all working together to do that. And hopefully one day soon, we will see some major change. David Miscavige is not long for this world, in my opinion. He's 63 years old. He smokes like a chimney. He chews tobacco, right? He's got asthma. He was deathly afraid of getting COVID, right? And who knows how long he's going to be around. Hopefully someday he'll either just go away, right, permanently, or he'll get locked up, or he'll just run and hide. Because if there's ever an investigation, in my opinion, and he gets, you know, indicted, I think he's got money stashed away overseas, and he's probably already investigated the countries that have non-extradition to the United States, and he probably just hightail it and get away because he's a coward. Okay, he's just protecting his own position. He knows what he's doing is a con, and he basically tries to attack anybody who's trying to point that out. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to mention regarding that. I also wanted to show one last picture, and then I'll go to your questions and comments, right? This is David Miscavige. That's L. Ron Hubbard in the 1970s, long hair and disheveled, right? That's how Miscavige is going to end up. He's on the hide right now. He's hiding right now from all the depositions that they're trying to serve on him, all the lawsuits, right? Hubbard died alone in hiding because he was running away from legal actions. And Miscavige is basically going to, you know, live in a cocoon like Hubbard, and he'll die alone by himself without any family who he basically is disowned, and without any real friends. So that's the future for David Miscavige, in my opinion. Anyway, that's my rant. I'm going to go in here I don't have anybody moderating, so just bear with me. I'm just going to go ahead and start propping up comments. I appreciate you all being here. And I just wanted to mention, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We appreciate it. It actually helps to get um, the word out to other people. The YouTube algorithm will take this and push it out to people who don't know anything about Scientology, but who might be interested. So if you could subscribe to our channel, I would really appreciate it. All right, so let me go see here in the comments here. We've got a question here. Greetings, Betty Sue from Myrtle Beach. I appreciate that. Question, One Love 51000. Question, do you think the fact that Danny Masterson's whole family is in Scientology will prevent him from turning on Miscavige? Unfortunately, I do. That's a good question. I mean, that is possible. But I think about it this way. He's basically going to end up staying the rest of his life in prison. Okay. And, if he could get a reduced sentence, which happens all the time, it happens to mobsters, it happens to hitmen, okay, who finger the bosses and they reduce their sentences. If he could get out and be with his wife and with his daughter, I think he would do that. My understanding is Bijou Phillips has actually left Scientology over this, okay? That's the reporting that I've heard. And, who knows what his motivation will be. But, your child, I think he was very close to his child, and who knows? We'll see. That's just my opinion, but you make a really good point. Next question, YouTube watcher question: does DM do anything extra to get energy to micromanage everything? I heard from Ken Urquhart that LRH took testosterone pills, for example. Yeah, he takes human growth hormone. Miscavige does. He also, who knows? He drinks whiskey. I forgot about that, and he smokes cigars. And he drinks lots of coffee when I was with him. But he basically, he's constantly fueled by this stuff. Now, he can also then sleep whenever he wants. He doesn't have to follow the same schedule as other Sea Org members. And he's got unlimited funds. So he can do whatever he wants. He's had a hair transplant. That's not his real hair, by the way, on top of his head. Okay. He'd be as bald as his brother, who's just 2 years older than him, who's almost completely bald, and also his father, Ron Sr. Okay. No, he's had a hair transplant, right? And who knows? But he doesn't take really good care of himself. So, that's the answer to that question. Another question from YouTube watcher. Do you have any current news as to what storyline DM is pushing now with regards to OT 9 and 10 as a way to keep contributions coming in? I don't have any news regarding that. It's all bogus. If it's going to come out, it's going to be something that he has created because it didn't exist. All right. All that was L. Ron Hubbard's processing folders, and it's just a bunch of numbers and gibberish and things like that. That's why they haven't ever put it out, and they had problems putting out OT8. By the way, everybody, I wanted to mention I'm wearing this t-shirt. This is Mofo Mark. You can get it in our merchandise store. I put a tab there, and the reason I have this shirt is because OSA, as what I mentioned in 2006, when I saw these documents Mark Headley gave me, it turns out my nickname that Miscavige and OSA gave to me is Mofo. For Mark Fisher, Mofo. Good, I accept it. You know what a Mofo is, and I am a Mofo because I'm still here standing and I'm still going after it. I have no vested interest in this. I'm not making any money. All I want to do is see Miscavige taken down. I want to see the Scientologists, the abuse to stop, and I want to see the donations and the ripping off of people to stop, right? And I don't have any vested interest in this. Nobody's bought me off, and nobody ever will. Anyway, so you can order if you want one of these Mofo Mark t-shirts. They're down there in my merchandise store. All right. Here's a comment from Dawned on Me. Statute of limitations should be abolished. Yeah, it should be, and definitely in cases like abuse and murder and things like that. It should be. I'm not a lawyer, so other than that, I can't really comment on it. Thank you for that comment, Dawned on Me. I'm going to look in here for it. All right. That's right. There's also dawned on me, YouTube videos of childs being abused in Scientology is horrific, and I really have to, why nothing was or being done about it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I didn't have kids, okay, and I wasn't around the children. The only time when I was in Clearwater in late 1970s is that people were just starting to have kids, and we had to have nannies. There were state requirements in terms of how many nannies we had to have per kid, and we had the nursery there, and it actually was actually pretty nice at that time. But the abuse is in other places, like in Los Angeles and other areas, it was horrific. And no kids should be raised that way. So yeah, no, those are horrific stories too. I mean, the list of horror abuse stories are long, long. Okay. So anyway, thank you for pointing that out. Let's see. Okay, another question. This is from Gail Richards. Are you giving these terrible stories to anyone important who can do something about this? Well, we're putting it out. The stories we're telling, we're putting out on the internet. Okay, and several of the people who we've talked to who were involved in this sort of thing, they've gone to the authorities. Like I said, like Scott and Carrie Campbell, they went to the authorities. Unfortunately, they're basically statute of limitations. The FBI said that their hands were tied. They couldn't go in and investigate or grab anybody, right? But hopefully these stories will get to other people that could do something about it. Congress people. Who knows if they'll do anything? But there's different places that it can be reported to, and all we can do is shine the light of information out there, okay? Because things change when information, when when we shine a light on it, it helps to make changes. Like I said, the RPF was abolished due to the fact that people were telling the stories about what happened in the hole and at the international base. So, that's all we really can do. If we send it to the federal authorities, you've got to have evidence. It's not just this, in terms of the stories and stuff. But anyway, thanks very much for that. Next question here, YouTube watcher. Here we go. Mark, you knew DM from early on. Did you always said something was off about him, or was there a moment you felt he changed into being a power maniac? When I first met him, he was 16 years old. He just joined the Sea Organization, and I had just joined. I graduated from high school, and I was almost 18 years old. And he was buddy, real nice to me for like the first 2 weeks, and then he turned into be an a-hole. You know what I mean? Like he did something that was really juvenile and really an a-hole move, right? And so at that point in time, I thought I need to be wary of this guy. And then by the time I then interacted with him a couple of years later, he actually was working for Hubbard, and he was in the messengers org, and he took on an attitude of like, don't F with me. You know what I mean? And you didn't, he basically became, very, he ruled by fear, right? And you basically, he would take you on. So, that was my experience with him. When I actually was chosen by him to lead his office in 1983, if I had had my druthers, I would have said no, but I didn't have any choice in the matter, and so I said yes. And I worked, a long time. This is before Hubbard died, along his side to get different things, cassette lectures, audio lines, the movies, different things done up at the Golden Era base, and I did really well at it. And basically, Miscavige at the time, he would come in and he'd rant and rave about something he wanted done, and then I'd just say, "Sir, I'll go handle it." And I was basically the good cop to his bad cop, because if I came into a situation that he wanted handled, I wouldn't make the people wrong or go after them. I'd say, okay, let's figure out a solution. How can we get this done? What do you need? Is there something that you need to buy? Is there something, whatever? My job was to debug it. Basically, debug means to take away any barriers, and to get it done. And I did. I was very successful at it for a long time. All right, next question is power lies to paralyze. Who controls CST, Church of Spiritual Technology? Well, there's trustees for the Church of Spiritual Technologies. David Miscavige, I think, is one of them. And there's probably other ones that are on there, including attorneys that were not Scientologists. I don't know who they are now, but they're all people that he controls. They basically they answer to him. So anyway, that's the story on that. Question from One Love again. Question: how old is Shelley now? I do worry they won't help her in time. Shelley is about the same age as Dave. She's probably 62, 63 years old. Yeah. So yeah, that's the situation with her. YouTube watcher question: what post did you hold in the Sea Organization? Can we get a brief overview of your career? Yeah, when I first joined the Sea Org, and my first major posting, I was the LRH communicator, meaning L. Ron Hubbard's communicator, at the Flag Land Base in Clearwater over the Estates Organization. And that means the hotel, the Fort Harrison, the sandcastle, the buildings, and all that. And basically, my job was to make sure that L. Ron Hubbard's orders and policies were followed, and also that his orders were complied with. And so I did that for a long time. I then eventually ended up in management in Clearwater. I trained up and I became basically, I did the data series evaluators course, which was a Hubbard course that trained you on how to analyze statistics and look into situations and find the reasons why something's either working or not working, and then, creating a program in order to either reinforce it and make it better, or to improve it and handle any problems. And I became an expert at that. A lot of people did not do very well on that course, and I got to the point where I was getting my evaluations approved by Hubbard and also the people up lines, and then they eventually wanted me to be the one who would be in charge of approving all of the evaluations for all of the organizations worldwide. And I was brought to the international base for the first time. And then the basically job was turned over to me. I went back to Clearwater, and then I could approve things on my own. I didn't have to get any other approvals. I basically was like this senior case supervisor for management and evaluation, and I did really well for that. And then I was brought up to Religious Technology Center when it was first created, because they decided that the job that I was doing was not based in Clearwater. It should be at the international headquarters with the Watchdog Committee and CM Commoners Messenger org. From there, I did a short stint in the Rehabilitation Project Force. That's a whole nother long story, but basically I was found to be disaffected with what Miscavige was doing at the time, wiping out the mission network and getting rid of all the senior management people because I disagreed with what was going on. So I was sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force to get sorted out. I graduated that program in about 4 months. And then when I got out, I went back doing the evaluations that I was taught doing before. And then from there, when L. Ron Hubbard, created the position that I took over, the corporate liaison in charge, working for Miscavige, he wrote a whole dispatch regarding what the duties would be and all that. I was picked to do that job, and that was the job that I did until the day I finally left in 1990. And I handled all of Miscavige and Shelley's personal affairs, their laundry, their room, their food. I had a staff that worked under me. We did administrative stuff, and then also I was there to handle anything regarding situations in Golden Era Productions, and also had somebody in Los Angeles to work with different people from author services. So that's what I did up until the point where I saw the abuse. Miscavige was getting out of control, and that's when I left. Anyway, so that's the history. Sorry, I can go on for quite some time. Yeah, thank you very much for the love from Mofo. Thank you. One love. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, somebody pointed out there's no statute of limitations on murder. That's correct. I'm not an attorney, so I definitely believe you on that. Okay, what else we got here? One Love says, I think these stories being told are important to give the people currently being abused the courage to come out and tell their story. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the people that Janice and I get are people who have never spoken out before, and they feel safe now because of our channel and because of the other channels, and they feel like they can tell their story and that it'll be heard. And so that's definitely true. And also, of course, there are also Scientologists that watch, that get online, and they do watch these things, and hopefully we're reaching to them as well. Here's another question from YouTube watcher. Question: thank you for answering questions. Did you have any qualms about how DM and the new management was managing the tech while you were there? Yeah, absolutely, I did. That's why I left. I mean, I was a true believer at the time in Hubbard and Scientology. I had gone all the way up the Scientology bridge up to OT7. I was auditing myself on solo Ned for OTs. I was a highly trained executive. I was trained auditor, And I personally felt like I had a lot of benefit from Scientology. And now I know that the OT levels are a bunch of crap, of course. There are certain things that I did do and learn that have helped me in life, and I do talk about those on our channel. But I am not a Scientologist, and I would never go back to anything like that. But yeah, management, basically, we left. I wasn't the only one who left at that time. That we could see the writing. I could definitely see the writing on the wall because I worked right closely with Miscavige, and he started abusing me. He beat me up. He started trying to demean me and humiliate me. He started humiliating other staff in front of everybody else. And I just went, that's not Scientology, and I'm out of here, and that's my escape story. If you're interested, you can go to my channel and watch it with Gary Jackson Moorhead, where I talk about that. All right. Question from Mini Angel question. Who do you think will be next to rule Scientology if something happens to David? That's a good question. I have no idea. I actually have raised that question in videos in the past because you don't see anybody they don't do international management events with anybody except Miscavige, you know. And I'm sure he's got young people that are working under him, who knows who he trusts. He's such a narcissist and such an egomaniac that anybody that he perceives could possibly be trying to take over from him in the future, he would get rid of him anyway. I think he's just going to run it into the ground and he'll be gone. That's my opinion. All right, let's see what else here. Yes, I agree, Shelley. Scientology's tax status needs to be revoked. That's what you're going to see some real action. I agree with you. If they got rid of the tax exempt status, all of a sudden all these lawsuits and cases could go against them because judges and the judges rule that we can't touch them because they're quote unquote a religion, and that's a bunch of BS. So that's a good point. Okay, next question. This is from Open Source Advocate. Honest question. How do the rank and file Scientologists actually survive? I'm guessing high ranking members are also private business owners, so they clearly have the means to live. Well, there's two different things. There's the C organization, which the people who signed the billion-year contract, when I was there, we were getting paid $30 a week, right? But then in the C organization, there were people who were in senior positions like myself and David Miscavige and the people in Religious Technology Center. We got bonuses based on our production because there was no way David Miscavige was going to make $30 a week. That's just not going to happen, right? So, between him and Shelley, they would get $4,000 or $5,000 a month in bonuses, all their expenses paid for. And, I used to get routinely a bonus is about $1,500, sometimes $2,000 a month. We would get end of the year bonuses. So we had money in those senior positions, right? This is before the IRS tax exemption happened, because when that happened, then the IRS said, well, you should be paying your top people, meaning Miscavige and a couple other people, salaries commensurate with other religious leaders. So I think I heard from Claire that their salaries went up to about $200,000 a year, all expenses paid. They don't have any expenses. So Miscavige has racked up millions and millions of dollars. Meanwhile, the normal everyday Sea Org members, if they don't get paid or they get paid half pay or whatever, they don't have any money. And then the staff members that work in Scientology organizations, they end up having to moonlight with other jobs because they don't get paid enough money. There's the individual organizations don't make enough money, and Scientology, the C organization, strips the money from the organizations and takes it up to the higher organizations. So how they survive, I have no idea, but a lot of times they take other jobs. Okay, YouTube watch question. What is your style and method for evaluation? Could you describe your process in brief? Yeah, briefly. Basically, the way that Hubbard taught in the data series is you basically doing an analysis of statistics, and you can do that now, like with stocks, things like that, see the graphs going up and down, and you basically are looking for trends of what's happening, if it's going up on a trend or going down on a trend, and then you look into the area where that either downturn or the upturn occurred, And then you would start doing investigation, looking in that time period, because we had data files, paper data files, and you would actually, ask questions. Hey, what happened here on August 22nd? That's when, your production started decreasing, and you start getting reports, and maybe you'd fly there and look into it, and find out what happened. Oh, they removed Joe Blow, and he went off to do something else, and we didn't have anybody to replace him. It's that's an idiotic little simple, explanation. So I'd be like, well, fill that position, and then all of a sudden the production would increase. I mean, it's that stupid. But you could do it on major things too as well. So that was it. Okay, let's see what else here. Another question here from YouTube watcher. You were OT8. No, I was on OT7. I was OT6. Would you be comfortable talking about how a session usually went? There are so little first-person descriptions of it. Well, when you're on OT6, I've completed OT6. When you're on OT7 is when you're actually solo processing yourself with an e-meter, and you're holding two cans in one hand. There would be a piece of plastic divider. So you're holding those in one hand, and then you're writing down the information you're seeing on the meter on paper, right? And then you literally would, the commands or what you were supposed to do, you didn't have to tell yourself verbally to do that. You would just read them and think them and watch the meter react. That's basically how it was. And you were actually searching for body thetans. Anybody who knows OT3 materials or anything like that, Scientology believes that you've got all these different spirits encrusted all over your body and out hanging on to you. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And the idea was to get in communication with them, right? And then there were a couple of different things that you would do and say to them, and then get them to leave or blow, to just basically just go poof, they're gone, and it was really stupid when you think about it, because it is stupid. But when you're a true believer and you'd see it react on the meter, that's what you would do. You would go like, oh yeah, okay, that's gone, you know what I mean? And your needle's floating, and oh, I feel much better, right? And so the problem is, Hubbard came up with this thing as a big con, because it takes years and years and years to get rid of all of your body thetans. You thought you got rid of them all on OT3, but then you find out that on the next level, which is where somebody audits you, actually process you to look for more of them, and that takes forever. And you pay big money for it when you're a public person. Then you finish that, and then you find out that, oh, now you've got to also then do them solo. It's just a big scam. It's just to keep everybody paying money and doing that sort of stuff. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. Question. You said you were close with David. Did you know Shelley? Do you think she would leave if she could? Yes, I did know Shelley. She basically, worked with me, and I basically answered to her and also David. I hope Shelley gets out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different opinions about her. She was not easy to get along with. She was not easy to work for. She constantly would order something different than what David Miscavige wanted. And so you were constantly trying to, well, who am I supposed to listen to here? So that was a problem. She also was involved in enabling Miscavige in terms of some of his abuses. She would go through people's files in order to find out the juicy details that they gave up about some sex thing that they did and all that, to tell Miscavige, and he would then take it down, take the person in front of the whole group and humiliate them. I don't think she's a bad person at all, and I would never wish this on her in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of us who had left, we had bad experiences with her, but that doesn't mean that she shouldn't be let free. Absolutely. And if she came out today, we would take her in wholeheartedly and we would help her. So that's basically the answer to that. I don't think she'll leave. She has no connections, really, no family. She's been in it since she was like, a young girl. She believes in L. Ron Hubbard. And I think, she's working on, saving his technology with the archives and the spiritual technology stuff. And she's probably happy not having to deal with David Miscavige on a daily basis. So I don't know. This is all speculation on my part. Next question. One Love. How is your mom? I love that you're near her and able to spend time together. One more reason why it's good not to be in this call. Yes, my mother is 93 years old. She's going to be 94 in September. I just actually saw her about 2 hours ago. She's in a group home where she can be watched 24 hours a day. The biggest thing is that fear of falling. They don't want her to fall. But they take really good care of her. I go to see her probably every other day, and she lives about 3 miles away from me. And so I take care of her. I take her to go get her hair done. We go out and get things to eat, stuff like that. But she's 93 and she's losing some of her memory. But so she's doing good. Thank you so much for asking. Uh, okay, next question. Wishful thinking. Why are the cops not going after Scientology for calling and making false police reports? Good point. Scientology, they're better people to talk about this, but I mean, they have the police, particularly in Los Angeles and Hollywood, in their back pocket. They make donations to the police, whatever their charities are. They invite them, they pay them overtime to come work Scientology events. They do that in Clearwater, or at least they did. So they make it a kind of a symbiotic relationship whereby, oh, well, we're helping you guys out. We're helping make your life better by paying you more money. So how about you look the other way when something happens? And trust me, there's dirty cops that do that. Oh, YouTube watcher question. Do you think if Andy Tidman and WC with Janice had inherited the reins of Scientology, it would still be growing group right now? That's hard to say. Annie's unfortunately no longer alive. She's no longer with us. I mean, at the time when I left in 1990, yeah, there were people that I thought would be better qualified to run Scientology and get it to expand. But at this point, I don't really care if it expands or not. I mean, I've been out for a long time, and I've peeled a lot of my onion, and I just think these abuses and everything has to have to stop. Anything good that Scientology did, that could be repackaged and put out some other way, not as a religion, but it's very limited in terms of what is good and what would help. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Sorry for the delay here. Again, open source advocate. Question: do places like colleges ban Scientology? It seems like the rest of the world has many government sanctions against them, but not in the USA. I don't think they banned anything like that in colleges. I'm not a college. I'm not connected with that at all. But who knows? That used to be the fertile ground where in the 1970s, where Scientology would recruit people to come and join staff. The idealistic college student and high school student who wanted to save the world. I mean, that was me. I wanted to save the world. I got involved through my dad when I was 14 years old, and my dad was retired military, and he thought Dianetics, would improve things and help people, Scientology. And I started getting auditing when I was 14 years old, and it really changed my life. Some of the lower auditing and the communications course that I did changed me as a person to this day. There are skills and things that, and problems that I had that were handled that have never come back. So that hooked me. And then when I graduated high school, rather than going to college, which I should have done in retrospect, I joined the Sea Organization. And that's how these things happen. Okay. YouTube watcher question: when Scientologists come out and adapt to the outside world, do you see their personalities change, that they become almost like other people, can only be really themselves within Scientology? No, I mean, I think people change. The thing is that, I've been around a lot of people who have left Scientology and the Sea Organization, and they're still the same good-hearted person they were when they were in Scientology. You know what I mean? It takes time to peel the onion. We all went through a lot of abuse, mental, and also the other thing that's good about the stories that we tell is that it fills in the holes for people, because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in Scientology, and that is done on purpose. They don't want everybody to know what's going on. So, something may have happened to you when you were working in an area in the Sea Organization, and you have no idea why that happened. But then when I can actually say, oh, well, here's what was going on with Miscavige and why that happened, it gives people relief. It gives them an understanding of what went wrong and what happened. So anyway, but, I think the people are just basically still the same. They're still people. Anyway. Mini Angel question: did David ever show love to his family while you were in there? Not really. Not like, oh, I love you. Never that. He showed concern for his father and for his mother right? But not really. He really was a Scientologist, Sea Org member. He made his mother call him sir, and she refused to call him sir. We told that story. Janice, they went on a ski trip up to Big Bear in California. Janice and her husband, David Shelley, and David's mother was in the car, and she kept calling him Dave in front of everybody. And so he pulled over to the side of the road and called his mother outside to basically tell him, "You need to call me sir in front of the other people." And she said, "I'm going to call you Dave anytime I want. I changed your diapers, you know." And so, he just he made his dad call him sir. I could never imagine doing something like that with my parents. That would never, ever, ever happen. Anyway. Another question: did David ever show love to Shelley? Just wondering if he ever took a break from his horrific personality. When they were together and I worked, you know what I mean. First of all, you didn't really show affection in the Sea organization outwardly. It was all more done privately. But I saw Dave and Shelley, hold hands and hug each other. I mean, that type of thing every once in a while. But it wasn't like an open thing. So that did occur. Okay. Open source advocate. Thank you for your wisdom and time. Much appreciated. Oh, you're very welcome. I appreciate you all watching here. Yes, he told his mother to call him sir, and she refused. He ordered his parents to get divorced. Ron Sr., the father, he got accused of sexual assault on a woman in Pennsylvania. He wasn't in the Sea organization, and Miscavige sent Marty Rathbun and OSA's attorneys to go handle it and get the charges dismissed, which happened. And in exchange, Miscavige ordered his father to join the Sea organization and be a musician, and that he was going to, and he ordered his father and mother to get divorced, and because she couldn't come in the Sea organization, she refused, and so they did. They ended up getting divorced. Crazy. One Love, 5100. Yeah, I totally value your perspective and wisdom on these lines. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We only got a few more here, people, and then we'll be wrapping up. Question, YouTube watcher: What's DM's sell point? What attaches people to him? Well, that's a good question. It's really, unfortunately, it's really Scientology. People get attached to L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology. David Miscavige has nothing to do with Scientology. People get addicted to the processing, the actual auditing. Okay, it actually can be effective. Believe it or not, most people don't think so, but it actually is effective. Otherwise, people would not be getting involved. And you get addicted to it because it makes you feel, when you're done with like a processing session, you feel like you're floating on top of the world when you're done. Okay. And it's a feeling that you want all the time. So you keep getting it. And then you think, we can change the world with this. Okay. We're anti-drug. We can get people off drugs. We're pro-literacy. We have study technology that L. Ron Hubbard developed. These are things that could make for a better world. So that's what they get connected to and get hooked on. That's why all these millionaires and billionaires donate all their money. It's because of the promise, quote unquote, of Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard, not because of David Miscavige. He's just a charlatan. He's the Wizard of Oz. He's the guy behind the cape, you know what I mean, behind the curtains, that's showing all these beautiful things. But the emperor really has no clothes. All these ideal organizations are empty. Okay, it's all a facade. Whenever he does an opening, they bust people in so they have enough people there to show off that, oh, look at how great everything is. They don't have enough staff to run these places. They're empty. The ideal organizations that they've already opened, if you go by them today, you'll see nobody in them, maybe a handful of people, right? But in the 1970s, when I first got involved in Scientology as a teenager, you go at night after school at 7 o'clock on a weekday, and there'd be 200-300 people in the organization, 100 people on the communications course, if not more. There were people training to be auditors or people getting processing. It was a big happening thing then. It's not like that at all anymore. So anyway, but that's what they attach. And then since he has the power, he basically rules with an iron fist, and he rules with fear. The public don't see that, but the staff certainly do. All right, next question here. Betsy Sue. Hi, Betsy Sue. How you doing? Question: how are you doing, Mark? You seem tired. No, I'm not actually tired. I'm actually doing really well. Life is good. Things are going well. I get really upset, sometimes about what some of these stories. I'll tell you a story. Scott and Carrie Campbell's story. We recorded that about 3 weeks ago. Okay, and we had no idea what the story was, and it went on for over 2 hours, right? And I got really upset, really angry when they were doing it. Anyway, we couldn't use the recording because I had recorded over a major portion of it. I made a mistake on the technical end, and so we couldn't use it. So we decided we're going to have to record it again. So we did last Sunday. We decided we would break it up into two parts, and we found a natural break point beforehand. And so we recorded it again. But the first time I heard those stories, I got so angry, particularly regarding the abuse of Scott and then the Lisa McPherson thing that happened afterwards, that I got really angry. And after we were done, Janice and I both, we had to go take a walk. It was really upsetting, you know. But anyway, the second time around was much better because I knew what was coming. But when you hear these stories and you don't know what's coming, it can really have an effect on you. Anyway, next question. YouTube watcher, you mentioned some of Scientology work. If you had to save a process from the bunch, which would it be? Straight wire, locationals, etc. My beginning auditing was fantastic, which was life repair and then ARC straight wire, and then the grades, the grades 0 to 1. Grade 0 was about communication. Grade 1 was about problems, etc. And I had my biggest gains and wins when I was in high school, and I did my grades all the way up 0 to 4, and that was the most important auditing that I ever got. All the OT levels and clear and all that stuff afterwards, it really didn't do anything. But being able to communicate, like grade 0, which was basically handled any hangups or any problems you had communicating with anybody on any subject and all that, I wouldn't be able to do this video that I'm doing right now or this live stream before. I was so withdrawn as a kid, and when I did that, all of a sudden a whole new horizon opened up for me. Any hangups or any emotional things I had going on, they were erased, they were gone. And so it changed me, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Okay, sorry about that. Love it. Mark, which video was that? I'm behind. That's the Scott and Carrie Campbell video. We did part 1 and part 2 about being, I can show you to you again real quick here. This is the videos that I was talking about. We just put them out, part 1 and part 2, this week. And this is part 1, which is held prisoner on the free winds, Scientology abuse. And then this is part 2, abducted, locked up in New Mexico. The one in New Mexico is where I really got angry because they were actually physically beating him up and they tied his hands so that he could not sit up straight and had duct tape around his mouth and head so that he could only breathe through his nose. And they left him on the floor overnight and he thought he was going to die. That's when I really got angry. Anyway, if you're interested, watch it. It does have a good ending in the end, but trust me, Janice had margarita when we redid this thing on both videos. It's hard to watch some of it, but it's very emotional, but it has a good ending. So anyway, those are the ones that I'm talking about here. Thanks, love it. I appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I appreciate all of your comments and all of that. I just wanted to say, again, I appreciate y'all watching. Please subscribe to our channel, our Scientology Stories Peeling the Onion. It's important, not just for me. We don't make any money in this. It gets the story out on the YouTube algorithm to people who are interested in abusive cults and things like that. So please subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions that I didn't answer or you have any opinions, just ask in the comment section. I go in and I check them daily all the time. So anyway, you can ask that. And if you feel like donating to our channel, it costs a little bit of money to do this. You can buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description down below. Just click on that link and you can buy us a coffee. And any money we get from that just goes right back into this channel so that we can continue to do that. And then finally, if you want to buy a Mofo Mark t-shirt or anything else, Sorry about that. Let me hide these things here. If you want to buy a Mofo Mark or any of our coffee mugs or Janice's autographed books or Koala Calm, any of that stuff is in our merchandise store. You just go down below. I've tagged a few products there. Just hit our store. You can go in there and order it. Janice autographs all the books personally. And if you're interested in anything like that, please go to our merchandise store. And we appreciate that. Anyway, that's all I have. I appreciate everybody for watching, for sticking around, and let's hope that we can actually continue to make change. Let's just keep on keeping on, right? We're all in this together, okay? We're all on the same side. We need to keep our eye on the ball, which is David Miscavige and Scientology abuses. That's what's important. Until next time, everybody, I'll see you.